And hello. Here I am again. And it's time to talk a little bit more about fantasy, and it's been a couple of days. Lots has been happening, but I managed to do another stream. I have been doing a little bit work on the Project B storyline, not on the Project A. I'll probably let the Project A storyline sit on the wayside for now. Perhaps I'll just stop referring to them as Project A and Project B and just assume that I'm talking about Project B unless I explicitly say something else. And just on my moment. So now I have a cup of tea. Can sip while I'm talking, and well, last time I said that I have been able to write a little bit more, and I had come to a point where I wasn't quite certain where I was going to go further, and after that, I managed to get a little bit further, and now I'm at another point where I have to think a little bit again, and I probably would have done that on stream, but since the story that I have been reading through, the part of the story that I'm reading to haven't gotten to that point yet, I think I'll instead continue reading and then do the speculation about what I'm going to do next when I manage to catch up. But long story short, basically what I have come to a point where I'm starting to think a little bit more about the overall structure of the story again. So I had pointed out this. Oh, perhaps I'll wait until I read a little bit further before I say anything more, since I think the points that I was considering talking about come up in this following discussion. So instead, I think I'll just recap a little bit, and it's basically this guy that's ends up in an isekai world, another world, fantasy world. He comes from our world. I haven't really specified where in the world he comes from, nationality and so on. I guess there are two sort of obvious ways to handle it. One is to have the character come from Japan, have the events before his death also be set in Japan. That would be most consistent with the majority of isekai stories, since they come from Japanese anime or manga or light novels. That's one way to do it, and another way is just to keep it a little vague without going into details. At least so far, the nationality doesn't really matter. You could perhaps say that the country he is in might color some of the events of his past, since he did fool around with some organizations that were doing things that they shouldn't do, and the type of organization would probably be different depending on which country he comes from. So that's an argument for deciding the country, but I think I'll avoid going into too much detail about that, at least for now. But he does end up in this world, and he is summoned by King, and there's this demon lord, and the king looks for heroes to go fight the demon lord, and he was sort of hoping that the protagonist would fit this role, but unfortunately it looks like the protagonist doesn't have the type of magical powers that the king and his royal mage, court mage, I don't recall the title at the moment, but that they were hoping for. So we have these offensive types of magics in this world that people can have ability for, and it appears that the protagonist has some kind of magic ability, but it's basically what they refer to as this mad eye vision type of magic, and it's quite rare, and it's associated with it's not it doesn't have any positive connotations, not in the way that it is something like necromancy or something, but more that the people that have it has a tendency to sort of end up not in a happy place, so it's madness inducing essentially. That's the common opinion about this type of magic, at least among those that know that it exists at all. So he sort of gets shipped out of the kingdom since they don't really need him, and he is left to fend for himself. He gets a few items so that he at least survive a day or two, some foodstuffs and so on, and he travels to this travels along this road, and the first town he comes to is this small village, and he walks around this village a little bit. He eats some food at the market, and he finds a tavern that's cheap, since he doesn't really have that much money, and he plans to stay the night, and he's sort of thinking that maybe he can work as a translator or something, because he does appear to have some kind of skill in reading and writing and understanding languages that are spoken in this world, even if they are different to the language that the king that summoned him spoke. So there's some kind of magic at work here, but what he's thinking is that small village like this, not many literate people, can probably make some money, make a living by providing translation services and so on. And then sort of everything changes, because an elf walks in the door, pretty cute elven. Sort of girl is the correct term, but female at least, and he is sort of spellbound is the best term to use in this context, since you have magic and so on, but he's at least very much let's say just spellbound. He is very much spellbound by this girl, and she goes to sit down at this table that's not too far from him, and there are two men there that look somewhat suspicious. So when the three of them leave together shortly after, he decides to follow them, and it doesn't go very well. He's found out quite quickly, and they put him to sleep, stun him, making him unconscious. And he wakes up in this warehouse, and the elf is there, and there's also these two people that the elf walked off with are also there, and there's also this fourth person that appears to be some kind of wand seller. So the elf was meeting this wand seller in order to purchase some wands, and the reason that everything is sort of hush-hush is that well, it appears that he is a seller of wands that has, or rather tries to foster a very exclusive clientele, and as such, any dirty peasant from the street can't just walk into his store. So the only reason that the protagonist is there at all is that they sort of want him to tell them why he was following them, wondering about this, but any misunderstanding, to the extent that you could say that the misunderstanding is more or less cleared up, and they sort of see that he doesn't appear to be any threat, that he doesn't have any ill intent towards them and so on, and then they just offer to lead him back to the inn when or the tavern when the transaction with the elf is finished. And there it might have ended, but while he's waiting, and the two of them are talking, the wand seller and the elf, about the purchase, and these two associates, which appear to be some kind of bodyguards or something, are standing guard at different points in this warehouse. The protagonist, which is now more or less left to his own defense, his own devices, being deemed entirely harmless, mostly harmless. So he is more or less left to himself, and he gets up, sort of stretch, and he has never seen a magical wand in his life. So he goes and have a look at them, and there are these shelves, display cases with wands, and they are fairly simple. Uniform, an ivory handle, and a polished piece of wood attached to the ivory handle. And he looks at these wands, and okay, so these are wands. How exciting, and perhaps not what they expected, but still utilitarian enough. And he does study them a little bit closer. Does he see some kind of is there something magic about them at all? And studies them closer and closer, and bends quite close to the item, and yes, there appears to be some kind of aura or light coming from the wand. And he studies this, concentrates on this, focuses on this, and as he does this, he manages to see that yes, there appears to be some kind of power center at the tip of the wand, and then there's some energy in the area, or rather the part of the wand between the tip and the part where it connects to the handle, the holdy part, and he looks closer at it, and there's something strange there, and it seems like there's some kind of leak in the wand. There's a small amount of energy that seems to be leaking out at the point where the handle meets the magical wood, and almost to himself, he speaks out loud. Is it broken? And he does this while he's looking at the wands, and he doesn't really think about the surroundings, the people that are around him, but he notices that the room has suddenly gone very quiet. And when he turns around, he sees that both the wand seller and the elf are looking at him, and they are both looking. I'm not sure if shocked is the right term. They look very, very surprised, both of them. But the moment passes, and the protagonist tries to sort of brush it off. Oh, and he wasn't saying anything about the wands, just wondering what time it was. And they appear to sort of be satisfied with that. The wand seller and the elf continue talking, and not long after they are finished, and the elf goes her way, and the two associates lead the protagonist back to the inn, and that's again where it might have ended, but he sort of can't fall to sleep. Something that's bothering him, and when he's thinking back to this moment in the this warehouse, all the wands, and at the moment when he says that, or asks things aloud, are they broken? And he looks at the face of the elf and the ward seller. It suddenly the term. It's suddenly goes up for him that the two of them, it didn't look like they were surprised at the fact that the wands were broken, but more that he noticed that they were broken. So you can sort of conclude from that they both knew the wands were broken, and they were just surprised that he was able to notice this. And as he's thinking this, he can hear some kind of noise outside his window. It's kind of metal on stone scratching noise, and he can also hear a creak from the stairs of the inn. Up to the his room is on the second floor, and there are very creaky stairs leading up to the second floor. And he can hear somebody talking outside, whispering, and sort of events develop quickly. The elf is outside his window, and there are some men, most likely the associates of the wand seller, that are outside in the hallway. And when they can hear that there appears to be some kind of commotion inside the room, they start becoming agitated, and there appears to be some kind of light coming from underneath the door of the room. So perhaps they are trying to do some kind of magic out in the corridor. And the elf is there in the window with some other person, and they appear to be floating in the air, and or rather the elf is hanging from the windowsill, and she has this huge battle axe on her back, and it's really huge, and she says something like, come with us if you want to live, and quick snap decision later, he grabs her hand, and he is pulled out of the window, and they are flying towards the sky. And as they're flying, you can see that below them, the window, not only the window, but also the entire wall of his room is blown outwards by fireballs, some kind of explosion like that. But they fly away, through the night, and they fly up into the mountains, and the other person, which appears to be some kind of mage, pulls out some kind of magic item, and they go through some trapdoor that she places on the ground, and they are inside what appears to be a sort of magician's castle. And he gets the opportunity to talk to them, and it's an elf and a cat girl, and it's sort of interesting conversation. They don't know anything about him, and he doesn't know anything about them, and he doesn't really know how people will react if they knew that he actually came from another world and so on. So he tries to be as elusive as possible with his answers, and they try to find out whether he actually what he is, what he comes from, whether he's lying and so on. And at the end of the conversation, they start talking to each other in this strange language, which he's able to understand, and without sort of showing any kind of anger or hostility or anything. They essentially start discussing how they must kill and get rid of him, and he excuses himself and tries to run away, escape from the tower, but they catch him, and he ends up unconscious. And that's where the thing ended last time. So let's continue and see what happens next. So the last thing that happened was, again, I attempted to reach out to better study them. Darkness enveloped me, and I fell backwards into darkness, losing consciousness. And then we start on the new part, on the next part. I regained awareness. I was sitting. There was no pain. Had someone grabbed me before hitting the floor? Or maybe levitated me? He's awake, it was the elf. I opened my eyes. We were back in the kitchen, in the same chairs. The tea set and cups had been taken away, but apart from that, everything was the same. The elf did not look as friendly as she had earlier, and probably deliberately impossible to read face, hands crossed. The maid sat next to her, looking at me, and not in a very friendly manner. So, the elf said, we tried the pleasant way, but I'm sad to say I suspect that you lied to us. Maybe not everything, but nothing of what was true was anything of substance. Ouch. I started to protest, but she quickly interrupted me. We will not entertain more silliness. Any further attempts at untruths, and we will simply kill you. And just so that you know, and just so that you do not simply think us unlawful brigands, the short discussion that I and Onyx had before you hurriedly left us was in a secret language. Any commoner found to be able to speak or understand that language will be put to death by secret law. We think you clearly understood what we were saying, so even if we had qualms about extrajudicial killings, we can do this with a good consciousness here. Am I making myself understood? I nodded. Good, let's start again. Where are you from? Pausing a little, I sighed, then answered Earth. Both of them drew in a breath. See, was that so difficult? Suddenly I asked, can I ask what gave me away? The mage gave a short laugh, smiling disbelievingly. The elf looked at me like she thought I was a complete moron. Sighing, she answered, I don't know where to begin. Instead, the mage, who had hardly said anything, started talking. Yes, where to start. Almost everything you have done and said has been odd, unexpected, or surprising. Let's start at the point where I first saw you, the inn. You have realized that I was the one sitting alone, right? Ilareth had A meeting with the two men that were sitting there, and I had been keeping an eye on the place since early in the evening. Did you not notice that the two persons he was meeting, they were both scared and nervous? Oh, I said, that explains why. Do you know why they were scared? I shake my head. No, you probably wouldn't. Well, humans are generally scared of elves in this world, or at least very of them. And especially of this one here, she gestured to the elf. Bloody Ilareth, the axe maniac, crazy Ilareth. Looking slightly irritated, the elf interrupted that. Yes, he gets it. The two men were scared for their life, and when she entered the room, it felt very silent. Apart from the two men that were meeting here, the others didn't know who she was, but they recognized that she was an elf. You, however, probably didn't notice this, staring at her as he was with open mouth like a love-struck boy. I refrained from commenting. Then you followed them in the middle of the night. Nobody else in that village would have done the same. The natural reflex would have been to stay inside and close their doors. I later checked the room, and the henchman of the Warnseller checked your clothes when you were unconscious. You have no belongings, almost no items, very little money, only a set of clothes that looks like they once belonged to a well-off person. There's nothing that tells a story of who you are or what you have been doing your whole life. Then we have our conversations after you arrived here. Do you recall what I asked you when you first entered this room? Yes, I said. You asked me if I stopped. She had said tea, but I suddenly realized she had used the English word for tea. I must have been so tired and distracted that I did not notice. And I had answered yes. She nodded. My understanding of what had happened obvious on my face. Yes. I used the word from your world. That drink is not known to the majority of people in this world. 2 generations ago, we had a visitor from another world, and the one thing that person missed most from his own world was tea. So after many years of work, he managed to find plants that match those that were used for making tea in his world, and in a small plot he cultivated these plants, allowing him to make a small amount of tea each season. The tea set was also something that he had made. He made no effort to have the drink adopted widely, so apart from some members of my family, nobody in this world has either seen or tasted tea. Yet you immediately recognized it and managed to make it and enjoy it without thinking that it was something unusual. Grimacing, I put my palm in front of my face. And when we entered, you should immediately have recognized us, Ilareth interrupted, especially when seeing one-eyed Onyx here, smiling innocently. Onyx looked darkly at her, then continued. Yes, most people in your situation on this continent would have been terrified upon seeing us walk in. You were just smiling and looking like a happy puppy. I was about to say something, but she interrupted me and continued. From there it gets worse. The only thing you could clearly describe is the road between the border to Orende and Hillstop village. You clearly do not know about the history and lands of this world apart from that. Paltonia does make cloth, and you are correct in that, but Aslan does no longer exist as a country. They were conquered by the neighbor, the Bright Wall Empire. Did you perhaps talk to a trader in town? You probably also do not know that it is in a different continent. You have to travel from it by sea. And then there is the book. It is written in a dead language. Apart from me and 3 other persons, all that I know, there are nobody in this world that can read that text. Finally, there is the secret language that Ilareth mentioned. Unless you are a member of one of the royal families, you should not be able to understand this language. But you do understand me, don't you? The last question was said in the secret language. I nodded. Even among the royals, few are taught it outside the official line of succession. The room was silent for a moment. Line of succession. I felt slow, too much stress lately. I said to myself, so you know it because... Yes, Ilareth answered. I am Ilareth, Crown Prince of the Elven Kingdom of Evergreen, Protector of the Forest of Moonlight, Wearer of the Holy Ring of Divine Gold. Yes, we get it, Onyx interrupted her. Ilaret continued, "This is Crown Princess Onyx Myrdonia Amber Gold Blossom of the Kingdom East Wildmoor, also known as Calamity Onyx Verdoomed Amber, the Black Tidal Wave of Death." What's with the title list for me? Onyx snapped at Ilaret, who again smiled innocently. I felt myself passing some mental barriers of absurdity and disbelief in the conversation, in the direction my life had taken. Going with the flow of the conversation, I stood up, bowed, and said, "I am Bob, Master Programmer, Shell Wizard, Keeper of the Lost BSD CD-ROMs. It is my pleasure to make your acquaintance. Well met." I sat down again. Both of them looked at me, obviously unsure if I was making fun of them or if I was serious. Most of the words I had used having as little meaning to me, having as little meaning to them as theirs had had to me. A few seconds passed, then Ilaret continued the conversation. "So you see, there is very little room for subterfuge. Let's start over with you telling us who you are and why you are here." Okay, I thought myself, so they know I'm not from here. Telling them about my summoning should not be a problem, but there's still too little I know. I should probably try to be careful with my words. I died yesterday, I started. Something similar to the carriages you have in this world, traveling at high speed, hit me, and as far as I can tell, I died. The next thing I knew was that I was standing in a small stone chamber with two people. The king and court wizard of Orende. Onyx nodded. Ilaret said, "I knew it." There's not much more to say after that. The king said that they were concerned about the Demon King and summoned me in order to have a hero that could fight him. They then used some item to measure my magical ability, but they were obviously disappointed with the results and simply escorted me to the border. I walked alone from there to the village where I ran into you two. Again, the two looked at each other, then turned to me. Ilaret asked, "The Demon King, do you remember exactly what he said?" I thought back. They had seen signs the Demon King were building up his army. Since their kingdom was bordering his, they feared more and wanted to summon a hero that could defeat the Demon King and his army. "Makes sense," Ilaret said to Onyx, who nodded, clearly deep in thought. Again turning to me, "You said they were determined that you had no magical ability. They were clearly hoping for someone that could use elemental magic, light magic, or dark magic. When they saw the results of my magic ability test, they both looked disappointed. The king simply left without saying anything." "Very strange," Onyx commented. "Yes," Ilaret answered. "These summoning rituals are only done rarely. But from the stories I have read and heard, it has always resulted in someone with powerful magical powers being summoned." "Need to say that the test failed?" "Ah," I answered. "But I am a powerful wizard. My lead computer skills are peer to none." They both looked at me with confusion. "What do you mean?" "I am a wizard, but in using a technology that does not exist in this world. Without a computer and a network, there is nothing I can do." Silence. Both of them were clearly thinking deeply, not looking entirely convinced. Slightly curious, I asked, if these rituals result in summoning a powerful hero, why are they not performed more often? After a short pause, Onyx answered, "Two reasons. Firstly, the rituals are difficult and demanding. Secondly, they are meant to summon a hero that is powerful enough to defeat the Demon Lord. If such a person already existed in the world, there will be no need for summoning, meaning that the hero becomes the most powerful being in the world. What will such a person do after they defeat the Demon King? If they are bored, perhaps they will go around looking for other evils to put an end to. Any king that considers financing such a ritual will think twice about the possible consequences before doing it." Nodding, I said, "That makes sense." Again, the room fell silent. "Wait," Ilaret said. "There's still something that does not make sense. When we visited the wand cellar, you said it's broken. While looking at the wands, what did you mean?" Onyx looked quickly between us. She had evidently not heard this. Just that I did not really know anything about wands, but looking at it, I thought it looked like it had a flaw. Again, the two exchanged glances. Very carefully looking at me closely, Illyris said, why did you think it had a flaw? Well, it looked like the magical energy was leaking out at the point where the wooden bit met the handle thingy. Again, that unfortunate silence. They both looked at me with blank faces. What do you mean it looked like it was leaking out? Just that, I answered. The shiny light around the wand looked like it was leaking out at that point, like water spurting out of a small hole. Again, silence. Onyx this time. The shiny light? Yes, you know, the aura-like thing around the wand. It was concentrated around the tip, then it got weaker toward the handle, but most of the light was shining constantly. But just next to the handle there was a small portion where the light fluctuated weakly. Illyris said nothing, just continued looking at me. I'll be right back, Onyx left the room. A couple of awkward moments of silence later, Onyx returned. She put down 3 wands at the table in front of me. At least I assumed it was wands. Comparing to the ones I had seen in the warehouse in town, these looked far more unique, like they had been put together using random bits of wood and jewelry. What can you tell me about these 3? Onyx gestured to the 3 wands in front of me. Starting with the one at the left, I looked at it closely. It looked like someone had broken a branch of a tree, polished one end and a little bit so it was easier to hold it, then wrapped some red string around the part where the handle stopped. Bending close, there was clearly light coming from it. It was concentrated in the upper part, but compared to the wands in the warehouse, it did not end cleanly where the handle started. It looks like there are 3 points of energy spread along the length of the non-hand part of the wand. Near the top, slightly reddish, near the middle, slightly green, and near the handle, brownish. The colors overlap, giving it a fairly consistent radius, but it does not end cleanly at the red string. The final color appears to color part of the handle. Compared to the ones in the warehouse, the light is stronger, I guess. I looked up at them. Onyx's mouth was a straight line. Next one, she simply said. The one in the middle was a lot more impressive. Again, the handle was made of finely polished ivory. The wood of the wand appeared to be of some expensive-looking oak-like wood, delicately polished and free of any flaws or knots. The pattern made it look like it had been deliberately grown. An expensive-looking gemstone was set into the point where the handle met the wood of the wand. It looked very impressive, but I could not see any light. Bending closer, trying to see from each side, nothing. I spent a couple of more minutes trying to squint and concentrate. Well, Onyx eventually asked. Clearly impatient. Nothing. I can't see anything here, I said. Okay, last one. She gestured at the final one. This one was closer to the design that I see it in the warehouse, with a simple handle and a simple, well-polished and adorned upper part. Looking closer, I can see light here, but there was something strange. It looked like the light was not centered in any single point of the wall. It also did not look like it was coming from inside the wood. Instead, it seemed to be coming uniformly from the entire wand. Well, I started. There is some light here, but it is different from the first one. There's light coming from also the handle. Could it be that there is magic here, but that the wand is not magical? Illyris looked at Onyx, who nodded, clearly dissatisfied. The first wand is magical. It has cores of fire, water, and earth magic, which will be the 3 different colors of light. It is also much more powerful than the amateurish wands we saw in town. Only a genius magician such as me can create and wield an item that combines this many types of magic. The earth magic slightly overlaps the handle. This is the cost of combining multiple branches of magic, but a highly skilled mage can compensate for this. Are there not 4 elements, I asked. Onyx did not appear to appreciate this comment, but elaborate largely. Second wand, no magical power. This is a wand made to be imbued with a single spell and then given to a foppish noble with little magical ability, so that they can at least use a little magic. Last item, this wand is also without any power. It has however had a spell cast on it, which would explain the magical power you saw. What do you mean, I saw? Can't anyone see this? No, they both said in unison. Oh, I thought to myself, that explains the reaction. In hindsight, I guess it was obvious. So, you clearly have some kind of ability. Can you describe the magical test once more? Okay, I thought. No escaping it, I guess. So I told them the detail that I had avoided mentioning so far. The item they used had 2 glass globes on each side, which is where I held the item. It ended up glowing blue, at which point they both looked disappointed. Oh, Yloreth said. And both she and Onyx looked as disappointed as King Walrus and Mage Whitebeard had. So Onyx started, Mad Eye Magic then. Well, that explains why they got rid of you. They did not really explain much. Could you tell me what the problem is? It is quite rare. Most people born with this type of ability die early. Many probably choose to die. Those that do not die often end up mad, and some doing extreme things like cutting out their own eyes. Who knows the reason, but they apparently often have strange visions, see strange things in the world around them, driving them mad. Me, only being proficient in fire, water, earth, fire, water, air, earth, light, and dark magic, have no personal experience with matter. Yloreth sighed, hearing Onyx list her prophecy with magic. Yloreth turned to Onyx. Okay, I guess that decides it. We have to take him with us. He doesn't appear to be very dangerous, at worst dangerous to himself, but having someone from another world running around could only be bothersome. What little magical ability he has can also be useful, who knows? Onyx was silent, then eventually said, obviously reluctantly, I agree. They both turned to me. Okay, Yloreth said, I guess it's time to tell you what is going on. And I guess I'll continue a little bit further. There's obviously turning point is the correct point, but the important point is the story where they he actually gets his 2 companions, and he doesn't have to go around this world alone. So, continuing, now I do not know what caused the King of Orenda to request a summoning ritual, but his country does lie next to the Demon Kingdom. I assume he has means of keeping track of what goes on in that country, either by using spies or through other means. If he thinks that the Demon King is preparing for war, that is likely correct. What me and Onyx have been looking into is necessarily connected, but very likely it is. It's not necessarily connected, but very likely it is. Someone has been selling mass-produced wands in several countries close to the domain of the Demon King. The problem with these wands is that they are, as you correctly suspect, flawed. They have a flaw that can cause the item to break if put under heavy strain. They also gradually lose magical power, so it will eventually become useless. There is also suspicion that the presence of the flaw is known to the makers of the wands. They can deliberately target this flaw to destroy the wands. The flaw is, however, difficult to detect. It was only when a reckless, overpowered mage without any respect for safety protocols could hold one of these wands that it became apparent. Hey, what do you mean reckless? Are you talking about me? Onyx interrupted. Ignoring her, Yloreth continued. Being mass-produced and much cheaper than handmade wands, consider this scenario. These wands are weaker than those that are individually made, but easier to get hold of. Thinking that these wands are an easy way to increase the strength of the armies, countries purchase these wands in high numbers, giving them to all their mage units. The strength of each mage will go down a little, but the number of mages with wands will be higher, giving a higher total power. The wands can break, but only under extreme usage, and normal training might not reach this level, leaving the problem undetected. If a small number of wands should fail early, that would not be a big problem, since they are easy to replace. So, all countries create mage army units based on these wands. Fewer mages have individually crafted wands, some time passes. The skills to create wands disappear as those with the knowledge travel elsewhere or find other occupations. The wands obtained by the armies gradually grow weaker as the magic leaks out. Then, the maker of the wands invade these countries. The armies rush to protect their nations, but the wands, placed under extreme pressure in an actual combat situation, fail in high numbers. If the invaders in addition have techniques to trigger failures in the wands, even more wands will fail. The few mages that remain will be too few to properly withstand invaders, and if the countries reduce their infantry and cavalry units in favor of mage units, they will be unable to put up much of a fight. The invaders, on the other hand, will presumably have built up considerable experience and knowledge as part of being able to mass produce wands, so they will also have wands in large numbers, but wands that are more powerful and without any flaws. The invader in this scenario will conquer all their enemies without serious loss of their own forces. Even if some countries did not obtain these wands at this point, they will be too few and too weak to be able to withstand the invader. All the world would fall before them. Silence. This is the work of the Demon King, then, I asked. That we do not know. It seems likely, but we do not know. We are investigating this when we ran into you. Why you two? It seems that this would concern most of the countries in this world. Onyx answered. I discovered this by chance. The school I attend has many nobles that are less fortunate in magical ability, but has no shortage of self-confidence. One of them tried to challenge me into a duel. I thought there was something strange during the fight, beyond the fact that he obviously was incompetent. After winning, I claimed the wand as compensation for him having wasted my time. And after some experimentation, I discovered what you also found. The wands are flawed. You are not going to mention that discovering this caused the wand to explode and demolish half of the dome building? Ilar teased. I don't think that detail matters, but it did mean that it was a good time to do some extracurricular activities far away from campus. Ilrith can be a nuisance, but I know she can be trusted. She also can take care of herself in a fight, even though she has little affinity for magic brute that she is. Ilrith did not seem displeased with this description, rather she seemed to smile with some satisfaction. We made the dueler set up a meeting with the person he got the wand from, and here we are. Well, I started. I guess that explains why they were coming to kill me at my room in the inn. At least if the wand salesman knows the wands are flawed. Yes, having someone that can spot that would be a significant problem for them. The flaw that is there now is not easy to spot, but if you know it is there, it will be possible also for someone less blessed than me in their magical ability to spot it. So I guess the wand cell is our next target then. Do you think they believe me dead? Hilarious looked thoughtful. Maybe. It looked like they triggered the magic from outside the door without opening it. It was dark, the building might have burned down. There will obviously not be any body to be found, but if there are other deaths, maybe they think you are dead. Do you know anything about him? The wand seller? Not really. He acted more like a member of the nobility, or someone connected to nobility that pretended to be a merchant rather than a simple merchant. Just some thought. Are either of you familiar with the language used in the Demon Kingdom? Ilaris nodded a little. We need keep track of the demons and communicate with them. I have learned enough to keep a simple conversation. She's here, be careful, I said, repeating the words I had heard in the inn. Both Illyret and Onyx stared at me in surprise. This is what one of the two associates of the Vaughan Sellers said when we arrived at the inn. I said, looking at Illyret. Are you sure? I didn't notice that, Onyx asked. Yes. It was obviously spoken in a very different language, and this was part of the reason I left the inn to follow me. This is the language spoken by the demons, Illyret said. Onyx nodded. Meeting you must have made them so nervous that one of them forgot himself. Well, that makes it very likely that the demon kingdom is the source of these wounds, she turned to face me. Well, as the hero summoned to defeat the demon king, I am glad to have you with us. Face serious, she did not appear to be sarcastic, which made her statement even more terrifying. And that, I guess, is a good place to end it. So, next thing that happens is that they travel back to the village. And I have written the events that happen when they return to the village to make it seem like the protagonist died in the fire. And I have written the next thing that happens after that, because Illyret did purchase or order some wands, so she goes to pick those up. So that's another thing that happens, and then there's the protagonist needing to find, I guess we call it a disguise. That is also something I have written. And after that, I think that's about as far as I got, and they have to decide what they're going to do after that. I think that's about as far as I've gotten. So there's something like 1 or 2 sessions more of text to be read, and I will do that hopefully in the not too distant future. I have not been writing that much last couple of days. Maybe I will be able to continue that again. Maybe I'll try to do a little bit this evening before turning in. Try to think about what's going to happen next. That's something I have decided. I did brainstorms on new characters. There's this kingdom that that's the likely source of the wands. I don't remember if that country has been mentioned yet so far, but it's essentially this mage kingdom, and I have to decide on their role in this story. I have been thinking about some alternatives, but I haven't really decided on the direction to go in. One thing is that there's the question of who the antagonist is. Is it the Demon King, which is the setup that this part of the story that I just read builds up to? So you have the demons being presented as the likely enemy, but there could be room for some more complications. some more complexity in the storyline, and that's something I have to think a little bit about. And that's really relevant for the next part of the story after the one I mentioned. After they to the point that I have written to, they have they find out a little bit more, and they sort of need to decide on what they're going to do next. And before they decide on that, rather before I decide on what they decide on, I have to think about the antagonist. So it sort of turns out to be a little bit more structured process than I had expected at the beginning. I started writing this story without really having any plan at all, apart from very high level ideas, such as I'm not really wanting to do any deconstruction of the genre, really. Not that would be very original, even if I did it, but I sort of tending more towards a traditional hero's journey type of story. That's the setup that I used at the end of this story, because you get this Demon Kingdom being presented as the likely source of this what appears to be some kind of plan for world domination. But even though I have written a possible ending for this story, I have to think a little bit about whether there's actually some more complexity here, and there's this Mage Kingdom sort of comes in here into the picture. Because if the Mage Kingdom is the source of the wands, which seems likely, you have two potential. You have some scenarios. You have the Mage Kingdom being the antagonist. You have and the Demon Kingdom not really being involved in any direct way, and then you have the alternative of the Demon Kingdom being the actual antagonist, and the Mage Kingdom just being some front or puppets of the Demon Lord. And then the third alternative would be some kind of close cooperation between the two. I guess there are some other alternatives also, such as the type of cooperation could be in many ways. It could be a voluntary cooperation, and it could be an involuntary cooperation, I guess. If, for example, if the real antagonist is the Demon King, he could, for example, have kidnapped the daughter of the Mage Kingdom, the leader of the Mage Kingdom, and in that way make the Mage Kingdom do his bidding. That's another possibility. And that's something I guess I have to decide on. If it's the Mage Kingdom that's the antagonist, either directly or in cooperation with the or more or less equal cooperation with the Demon King, then that would mean that I have a new antagonist, and I have to sort of decide on whether the Demon King is the last boss, or whether the Mage Kingdom leader is the last boss. And There's also the possibility that this will make the storyline a little bit too muddied and unnecessarily complex. Something to think about. And I think that's perhaps what I do today. Try to think a little bit about that. And if possible, try to continue writing again. But I guess that's enough for today. I think I will end it here. So thank you for listening. And hopefully be back again soon. But for now, I'll say goodbye. Bye-bye.